coming to you live April 22nd, 2014 from the Devil's Nose Wildlife Management Area in Berkeley County, West Virginia. And we're going to walk around and check out some cool stuff here. Let me see. What do we have exciting? Mostly, this is north facing up here. We have mostly different pine trees and hemlocks. Up here, we'll eat some of those in a little bit. We're gonna go down. Let's go down and start a fire. How about that? It is a bit chilly up here today. I think we're hovering right around 38 degrees, something like that. Who likes pesto? Who likes pine nuts and pesto? These are baby pine nuts before they're ripe right here. Cherry tree. Bark is toxic. One of the few things that will kill a goat. Here's a hemlock. Eastern hemlock, not like the plant. It's referred to as maculata more specifically, but Tsuga canadensis. This is eastern hemlock. This tree is quite edible. Pioneers tanned hides with the bark, similar to some other trees with a lot of tannins in the bark, and they make a wonderful herbal tea. In another couple days, couple weeks, there's going to be little lime green needles coming off of the stems that you can eat. You can still eat them right now, and without boiling them, just steeping them. This is your vitamin A and your vitamin C right here. Oh, let me see. What else do we have?
So why isn't that poisonous? What's the difference between hemlock and poison hemlock?
I'm sorry. The water hemlock and the deadly hemlocks are a plant. This is a tree. It's a whole different plant altogether. One reason, I believe a Japanese botanist gave it a little different name so you could correctly identify one from the other in conversation. And this is Tsuga canadensis, and the hemlocks are the species maculata, and they're a plant. This is a tree. These guys are quite edible. White pine. This is one of my favorite trees for friction fire. White pine. 5 letters in white, 5 needles coming off of the fascicle. It's one easy way to tell white pine. And if they have a wagon wheel appearance from the branches here, they all come out from the same place on the stalk. Wagon wheel appearance, white pine. White pine is very common in this part of the world. As we walk, we have some hieroglyphics. We're going to grab a little bit of pine pitch here. We're going to need this in a couple minutes. See if I find some. Pine pitch is kind of like blood and platelets in a human being. That when the tree is damaged, when the bark is damaged, it's kind of like your skin being damaged. When it's damaged, it exudes this stuff to create kind of a scab on it. So I'm going to try to take a little bit. It's going to make my hands really sticky when I do a fire. I'm trying to find a place that people were where one of the trees was nicked. There we go. Definitely don't want to cut a tree if I don't absolutely have to. And right now I don't absolutely have to. There we go. Nice sticky pine pitch. Was hoping for a little bit more, but this is a good start. Alright, that's a good start. Let's walk down here. Let's check out some more of the scenery from the Devil's Nose. Watch your footing. Contrary to popular belief, native peoples didn't go out and harvest everything when they needed it. They prepared. So I've got my fire kit with me. Should I need to go out and harvest natural materials, I could still do that. But to make it easier on myself, if I needed to make a fire, for weather concerns, for food, for smoke, for whatever reason, I would bring my fire kit with me. So I have my fire kit here. Some of the materials like tinder, especially tinder, I would bring with me if I could. But things like that are a little bit easier to find and are viable when you're out in the forest actually needing them. Greenbrier right here is quite edible year-round. The dendrils, or the little fingers that hook onto branches and other things that help it climb, it is a vine, are quite edible. They taste kind of like really, really light-tasting grapes. Roots of these things are edible all year round as well. There's some kind of greenbriers. Watch the spines on that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely beautiful here. There's more canadensis growing, more hemlock. There's mountain laurel and rhododendron, and all kind of beautiful plants here. Some have very specific uses that we can do things with. Some just doing their thing. Different lichens. Largest living creature in the world is a lichen. Why we've picked this spot? This is where anybody would camp. You have shelter, important, protection from the elements, wind and precipitation specifically. You've got overhead cover, you have a place to stop and think. So this would be a very practical site to set up camp. Far enough away from water that we wouldn't have to worry about biting insects or some of the other potentially dangerous animals. Could be dangerous that live around water. This would be a wonderful place to set up camp. Close enough to water that it's accessible, but far enough away that we could get it when we needed it. Hike it up here. Walk around, see if we can find a little bit more viable pine pitch. See if I can not fall. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for right here. Alright, remember where that is. This is what we don't do, is hack at trees and do nonsense like this. First, because it's ethically irresponsible, too, because it's ugly. And then draw pictures on rocks that aren't beautiful. So, we're going to do a fire today. I'm going to talk to you about hand drill fire. Grilling some onions. Most importantly with fire, after I produce it, I don't want it to jump. We refer to it as out of the place that I'm making a fire. So I want to be very mindful that everything around me is relatively free from flammable materials. Now I'm going to be able to contain this pretty good because we're not going to make it very big. But I am nonetheless going to be very mindful of what it is that I'm doing. Now we're going to do hand drill fire today. Going to use my Yucca filamentosa stock and northern white cedar fireboard. Right here, like yay. I do have these pre-primed already. You only have so much time getting this done. I'm going to grab some tinder that I've already harvested. I have my notches and my sockets already cut into my materials. I'm going to grab some eastern red cedar bark. I'm going to process this, we refer to it as, and get it ready to burn as much surface area as I can create with a fibrous, dry material. I'm always looking around for what's available, what materials are available, ethically available for me to harvest and utilize. Unfortunately, this part of the world does not yield very good knapping materials to make primitive tools out of rocks. Most of the stone tools that native peoples in this part of the world use, they traded for the materials. There's not much rock around here that's good at all. So I'm looking at all the different types of rocks around here, and there's not much that can benefit me too good. So, I'm going to take this guy, There are many ways that I can do this. Many different ways that I can do this. I'm going to do this the simplest way possible. Now, once I set this tinder bundle or this bird's nest on the ground, because everything is relatively wet, I don't have an immense amount of time before this thing starts to soak up moisture. This is weird to do with boots on. So, I'm going to get this going relatively quick.
Take your boots off.
I got holy socks on. So, what I'm going to do, start a fire essentially. My goal right now is not to start a fire. It's to make friends with the process. The more practice you have with this skill, the easier it becomes. You got to produce something to light, first of all. Smells so good. Oh, good to go.
That's fast. It does smell good.
I'm very mindful and careful of what I'm doing, just because it feels good. Now, should I decide to actually make a fire, I would add a whole bunch of little dry things to this as it burned to make a coal that I could transfer into a bigger fire pit. Well, there you go, Christina. There's your fire.
Nice.
So there we go. So I'm going to be careful to make sure that that's out before we go. We're going to pour probably a little bit of water on it, unless I can get it to go out. Now the ground is very, very, very damp, which is going to help us out with this. We're pretty much out. Yeah, we're out. We would be worried about smoldering, but yeah, it wasn't really lit anyway. So that's a hand drill fire. I'm very mindful of my kit. Obviously, this is pretty important to be able to start a fire out here in this environment in any season. So I'm going to be very mindful that my kit goes right back together as soon as possible. So, should I actually need to make a fire, if it's game time, I can do that. I'm putting a strap around it so all the stalks and fireboard are stronger so they don't break as easy. This would be an outstanding place to camp. Again, we have overhead cover. That's south facing, that's west facing, and that's where most of the wind and rain and precipitation is going to come from. So we'd be relatively protected should we decide to camp in here. So yeah, this would be a wonderful site to consider to camp in.